in a position. So you're kind of viewing this painting at a bit of an angle right now. Let me just get that set up. All right. Just going to see if I can just rotate the camera so the image isn't as skewed. It's about as good as I can get it at the angle that I'm sitting at, because I've got to sit in front of the canvas, so you guys are just going to have to sort of view it from an angle. But I'll just try and maybe if I can just twist that around there. This is a great start, isn't it? I should have God, this tripod is crap. I need to get a new one. All right, hopefully that stays up. Okay, I think we're good. That's a good angle. All right, that took a while to set up. So, I'm painting in these Roman shields, as you can see. So I've just finished doing this one. This one I did the other day. This one's brighter because it's catching more of the sunlight, but the colors don't appear to be correct, really. So I think I'm just going to have to tweak that, but that's okay. I can do some glazes on some of these reds just to kind of match it with this one a bit more. But it still looks nice. But I really like these rich reds that I've mixed here today, so I'm going to do this shield now. So before we jump in, I'm going to just quickly show you my palette. And you can see that these colors here, they're the base colors for the shields, right? So you got like these warmer, sort of like purplish reds. And I've got like a dark value, I've got like a warmer value, I've got some light values. And you can see I've got like a range of temperatures. So this is where it's going to warm up, and this is where it's going to cool down, when it starts catching more of the sky color. Got some different tones for the gold. So I got like these sort of greenish, goldish colors. I got some like warmer reds here, and some oranges, and some yellows, and some pale yellows for the reflections. And I've also got these sort of like nice blues down here for like the steel bit right there. So I've got a variety of different tones and colors, and that should hopefully make my colors look a little more real. So let's get some medium. I'm just gonna get a bit of medium on my finger, and I'll just kind of rub it onto the surface that I'm going to be painting on. So I'm going to paint this shield today. So I'll rub that medium all over. I'll rub it in well. Down here too. And then I can just grab like a rag, or even like a bit of tissue paper or something, and just kind of dry it off a little bit, just so it's not too wet. I don't want too much oil. I just want a minimal amount, because if it's too if there's too much oil on the canvas, it is prone to yellowing. So we don't want that. Just make sure I'm not touching this part, because the paint here is still wet. Okay. I'm going to use a flat brush, and on my palette I'm going to grab just one of these base colors, maybe this one, and I'm just going to kind of start patching the color in. Just kind of like this. So the canvas still, it's not like I'm covering the canvas completely, still visible, but I'm just patching my color in with the shades that I think I need. And I'm just starting with the base colors, not worrying too much about the temperature, but I am focusing a little more on the value. So the values here will be a little bit darker, and they should be getting a little bit brighter up here since it's closer to the light source. So I'll grab one of those lighter base values, base colors. It doesn't really look that much different, but there is a slight shift in value there. And yeah, like I said, we're just patching this in. We're just doing a very transparent, layer of paint. I'm going to be a little bit careful on this side because I don't want to go into that shield that I already just painted. So I'll just do like a pretty clean line. This is where flat brushes are quite useful. Put some base tone on this side of the shield, down here as well. So I'm just trying to find different value shifts. I'm not rushing through the painting process either. I am taking my time a bit. I see no reason to rush. The thing is, if you take your time to get your colors right, then what actually ends up happening is you finish the painting a lot sooner. So patience actually pays off. It's all about proceeding carefully. I really like how this deep red looks against this sort of purplish red, or this sort of bluish gray where it starts catching the light of the sky. I actually really like that effect. I know this shield is probably going to need a bit of glazing just to sort of color correct it, but we have got some nice effects going on. So hopefully I can preserve some of that. Because I decided that I wanted the Roman shields to look like a bit more like a sort of deep red, like a sort of deep purplish red. I mean, Roman shields, you know, I did like a little bit of research, and different legions obviously like had different style shields. They had different colors, different emblems. So you know, the Roman army did have like a variety of different colors depending on the legion, but for this one I kind of wanted like this sort of quite deep red, just because I think it looks good. And I'll just scrub some of that color in. And I do have to kind of draw the edge of this shield sort of lift it up a little. I don't want to completely lose the drawing. But yeah, you can see how patchy that actually looks. It's not like I'm filling the color in completely. It's not like it's opaque. I patch it in very thinly because by patching it in thinly, I can then begin to actually start tweaking things and making certain adjustments. It's just easier to change the colors a little bit, that's all. I'm just going to kind of try and define the edge of this shield, separate it from this one. And, well, I'll finish painting this, and then if I have to just kind of patch up this gap, I can. Okay, so these are the colors that I think I'm likely to go with. So now let's start adjusting the temperature. So here's the thing. This shield, you'll notice, is kind of standing at like a more vertical angle. It's kind of slightly facing downwards a little bit. But these shields, they catch more of the light because the sunlight would kind of be reflecting off them a bit more. Whereas this one's probably receiving a little bit less. So that's why the colors are going to be adjusted a little bit here. So I'm going to start warming it up. So the sunlight reflection, as you can see here, it's going to like occupy this space, just like it does on the helmets, just like it does on every other surface on the painting. So it's likely to be here, and it's going to be the same deal for this one. So I want to kind of gradually warm up these tones. So I've got a tone that's similar to the base color, but as you can see, hopefully, it's a little bit warmer. And then that would kind of bleed downwards a little bit, and perhaps even just sort of fade out towards the bottom. I'll just kind of scrub it in. Okay, and then to kind of capture this sort of reflection, I need to go even warmer than that. So I'll grab my next warmest tone, which is on the palette. It's, can you see that? That one. So I've just used that. So these are my base colors, and I've kind of gone towards the warmer side of the range now. And the benefit of mixing your colors and preparing them like this is, you know, it does take time to mix your colors, but once you've got your temperatures worked out, you can really just kind of jump in and paint. And it's a sort of like paint by the numbers sort of thing. You know, a little bit warmer here, a little bit cooler on this side, bit of both in here, you know. It's just easier to paint a little bit quicker, I find. But I do spend maybe about 20 minutes or even like half an hour mixing the colors that I need. Which, you know, if I was better with color, I could probably do it faster, but I'm not that fast. So we got that sort of reflectivity from the sunlight. It's beginning to like warm up the surface. That's looking pretty cool. All right. Now it's got to get a little bit brighter and still keeping it warmer, but because the value is increasing, like because we're getting a bit brighter, the vibrancy is going to kind of sort of drop off a little bit now. So it's still a warm tone and it's brighter, but it's not as vibrant. But it does help give that effect of the sunlight kind of catching onto the surface. Now, another good thing, when you're tweaking your temperatures, you need to keep your warms and your cools separate. So that's why that base color is useful, because it kind of acts as like a barrier between your temperatures. You know, it's like a gradual shift in temperature. You know, it doesn't just go warm and then cold. There has to be like a gradual transition between your temperatures, between colors. You know, it's like adjusting a shower, you know? Like if the shower's too cold, you're not just going to switch it to boiling hot. You'll just end up melting your skin off. You're just tweaking the tap, right? You're just making adjustments. It's looking nice. I like these colors. Yeah, I think I'll definitely have to sort of glaze this one. So I'm going to increase the value again. And I've got this sort of pale pink, kind of what I used here actually, so it's not too dissimilar. So when I do glaze this shield and start color correcting it, I should hopefully not have to make too many adjustments. It should all hopefully make sense. But yeah, I like how you kind of get like this glimpse of like sunlight sort of bouncing off this surface. It's very, it's a really pretty effect. But you can see that again, as you increase value, the temperature begins to kind of, it's still warm, but it begins to sort of drop off again as you get brighter towards white. And the vibrancy decreases. So this is why I like thinking of color in terms of temperature. I like to think of color as temperatures because it kind of solves multiple problems for me at once. You know, it's like it tweaks the values for me, it tweaks the colors for me. The vibrancy, how saturated a color should be versus how unsaturated it should be. You know, it does, temperature solves multiple problems at once. And that's a pretty nice effect. I think I should probably stand on the other side of the room and just kind of judge that from a distance just to make sure I like it. Yeah, okay, not bad. So, what I might try and do, I'll take that highlight and I'll just kind of start desaturating it a little bit, just so I can kind of match that, because I do quite like how not vibrant that is. I like the vibrancy here, I like this glow, but then I kind of want to just kind of drop the vibrancy in the middle. So the highlight color, it's like a peachy, orangey color. So if it's like if it belongs in the sort of orange family, then uh, obviously I'm going to want to mix blue to kind of desaturate it a little bit. So I'm just mixing a color on my palette, which is a bright value, but it's sort of blued down a little bit. See, that works, doesn't it? Probably probably don't want to go crazy with this one though, to be honest. I think it's quite strong. But if I just kind of break it up with brush strokes, I think that looks all right. At the end of the day, color is it is more or less a feeling. So you're only really mixing colors that feel right. You're not really, again, it's not like we're trying to compete with reality, but just mixing shifts in temperature that feel nice to look at. So now I'm going to start coming back down that temperature scale. I'm going to start reintroducing those warms just to sort of tweak this a little bit more. And I'm going to just kind of break up some of that highlight too, just so it's not too overpowering. But yeah, I think that looks like a pretty nice color to me. So I will definitely have to repaint this one, I think. Yeah. All right, well, look, we've got some warm tones. So let's think about getting some cool tones in there now. So let's go to the cool side of the palette. I'll show you again. So these are the base colors. This is like the local color of the object, and then these are all the cooler tones. So I basically just got to kind of gradually work my way towards the cool side. Probably not too much. Like I can try putting it's a bit dark in value, this bit, so maybe that goes down there actually. Okay. And then even make it a little bit colder. I'm just gonna reintroduce that base color down here, just because I think that's probably a bit too cold, so I might just go over that. Feel like sometimes if you're not careful when using temperature, it can feel like you're painting a bit of a rainbow. And you know, rainbows are pretty, but again, the color has to be fairly consistent. It's got to be consistent. Okay. This one. Too dark. Still too dark. Another thing you can do, you can mix your pre-mixed colors together. If you feel like you're missing one, then you can just kind of take the colors you've already mixed, and you can kind of just sort of neutralize them. So I'm actually taking this sort of peachy color, and I'm trying to mix, because I want to keep the value consistent, but I'm mixing a bit of that blue-gray tone just to neutralize it. And I think that's actually working for me. So I might just continue. In that line of thinking. And then it's going to be a little more blue-gray on the edge here. Might introduce just a little bit more of that. This might be a bit too strong. I actually like that. I think that, you know, when I put it on there, I was like, oh, is that a bit too... Let me drag that down. No, I quite like that. I think that works. Just got to bring it to the very edge of the object there. So the value is consistent. There's not too much shift in value. But the temperatures are like worlds apart. And it works. That's a cool thing about color temperature. Like, it actually does work when you start getting good at it. I like that. I think that was a good call. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to deepen the colors on this one, because this looks quite pale in comparison. Which I'm not bothered about. I think I wouldn't even have to glaze the whole thing, because I do like how bright that is. I think I just have to get some of these deeper reds maybe down here. Maybe just kind of tweak the transition between this and this a little more. And then that's probably all it needs. I don't think I'd have to repaint the whole thing. So as we travel down the shield on that edge, on this edge, I've got to think about decreasing the value. So the temperature will be still cool, but that value has got to be a little bit darker now, because we're going down the form, and it's going to be catching a little bit less light. And I've also just got to think about straightening up my shapes. So I can use my paintbrush just to see if that's working for me. Might have to do a little bit of tweaking there, but that's all right. Okay. And now I'm going to start warming up my value. So I'll use like a sort of deeper, or like a warmer purple, which I'll just kind of put on the edge here. Again, just sort of patching it in. I think that looks all right. Oh, maybe. It's all right. I'll grab a brighter value here. Might need to brighten up some of my colors. So perhaps just a touch of white, not too much. But it's also got to be warming up the temperature as well. That's the key. That's the key. So let's do, yeah, okay, that's a little bit of a natural transition. Let's get an even warmer color. And again, I'll just brighten it up. Seems like my base colors might be a little dark in value, which I'm having a tough time transitioning it into my cool tones. So I'm adjusting my base colors with a little bit of titanium white. Just a touch. And that seems to be working. Yeah. All right. And I'll grab some of the quote unquote true color. Let that sort of bleed into what I've just painted there. I think, yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, so are my values bright enough? Does it look like it's kind of catching the sunlight? It does up here. I think this bottom, I don't know, I need to judge it from a distance. Yeah, I think these warm lights should probably come down a little lower. So I'll just do that carefully. Just very gradual transitions, not forcing it. Choosing the temperature and the value that makes the most sense. I think the difference in value from down here and here is probably a bit too much. It makes sense that this shield is darker because, again, it's like the surface is being tilted downwards away from the light source, and you can see these highlights, which are actually this color painted in there. So that's kind of, and you can also see this steep shadow. See how this shadow drops down? It's quite elongated. So that should tell you that that object is turning away from the light source. So this shield, while the base colors are of the same family, this shield should be a bit brighter. And it should be a little bit warmer because, again, it's catching the sunlight. So it's all logic. It's all logical. I'm going to warm it up down here too, just around there. Yeah, it's looking nice. Yeah, I quite like that. And then I can think about even brightening up this plane around here, just around the center. So we've got some nice transitions happening with our colors now, which is good to see. I do like that. And I want these shields to have a slight reflective quality. Obviously not as much as the helmets, but I don't want them to look completely matte. Like this shield, this round one here in the foreground, you see this red one, that's more of a matte surface, so the temperature shifts are a little less obvious because it's not as reflective. There is a temperature shift, it's warmer down here, and then it picks up very slightly some of that sky color up on this corner. But I wanted that to appear a little more like a matte surface. But these rectangular shields, I want them to have a slight reflectivity to them. So, you know, with this deep red one, you can see there's some pretty deep dark red here, and then you've got like the highlight right here. So it's like as you sort of compress your values and squeeze them together, the surface looks more reflective. In fact, you can kind of see that very clearly in the steel part here. Like there's this bright value here, and then it's like this dark reflection right here, and then there's like this bright reflection where it's obviously reflecting the ground surface. And that's kind of what makes it look reflective, because it's like the values are being compressed. Whereas on a matte surface, if you have a look at the shield, the value transition is very, very gradual. It's like, it's very subtle. You don't really notice it much, but it's there. So let's see if I can find any opportunities to maybe include some of these deeper reds in this shield here. So let's maybe, I'll pick up this color, one of the darker base colors. I'm going to try and put it maybe over here. And I think that works. It's very subtle. I'm just kind of patching in a few bits and pieces, you know, breaking up the brush strokes. I want to see if can I get away with doing it up here. Might have been a bit too much. Yeah, that was probably a little too far. It's sometimes very difficult to know which value belongs where on the surface. That's probably the hardest part about painting, actually. But when you do develop an eye for it, it's a little easier to predict. Okay. I don't mind that. I like how it looks like it's catching the light more than this one. So I'm kind of tempted to add a little more of that peach color down here. I kind of want to bring it down a little lower. Just to get it closer to this. There we go. Bit brighter up here. And maybe even a little brighter. And even a little brighter than that. Let's get that cool highlight. Let's get that cooled down version. There we go. That's what I want. And I'm just using very broken brush strokes. I'm using very kind of stylized brush strokes. I don't want to like overblend everything, because I do want to create the illusion of texture. And the brush can do the work for me. You see? Grab a little more. And everywhere. That's all painting is. It's like very gradual color tweaking. And you have to apply your brain a little bit. You do have to think about things like sky reflection and kind of which direction is the plane facing in relation to the viewer. I'm going to cool this down even more actually, because I want to try and match that highlight just a little more. It doesn't have to be exact, just temperature wise and value wise. I just want it to be a little closer. And that looks good, but I have got this problem now where I've got this extreme value shift. It's like I got this bright highlight and then it just drops down in value, and then even that's quite dark. So I might have to, again, sort of tweak my colors a little more value-wise. Just so I can match it. So I'm going to lift that up a little, and then I will cool it down, but again, using a bright value. So maybe try this one. Didn't really do anything. Ah, there we go. It's a very tricky thing. Temperature and value changes, they're very tricky. You've got to, quite honestly, you do have to have some patience with it. So everything up here towards the top of the shield, I'm just kind of mixing it a little bit more white into everything, just to kind of make the colors a little pastier, and just so that the values are just a little more consistent visually. That's looking better. And you may also have to like maybe decrease the vibrancy in your temperatures. If you find that you're not getting the desired result. But I do like that. I think that looks pretty good. Just going to get some of these deeper reds down here. Again, just breaking it up, not doing like big solid chunks of color. Just little patches. it is a bit of a back and forth dance. All right, so let's maybe think about doing the texturing. This is actually a surprisingly quick process. So I've got like a shadow color, which is very similar to my base tone. The only difference is it doesn't have any titanium white in it at all. So it's just basically pure color, I guess. And I'm just gonna decide where do I want the scratch marks. Maybe here. So I'm just, yeah, you know, still using my flat brush because it's quicker. I'm just kind of putting in like some small scratches in different angles. Maybe like some dents in the surface. On the edge here. Whoops. It's all right, I'm going to paint over that shield anyway, so I don't have to be too careful. And maybe some scratches that kind of cross over each other too. I find that looks more natural when I do that. Okay. And then to make them look more 3D, you just grab your highlight color or just a color of a lighter value. So any plane that's facing upwards is going to be brighter. So I'll grab perhaps this one, just with like a tinier brush. I'm going to go with a sky color for this plane because it's kind of angling that way. Like that. It's pretty good. In there. And then any of those dents or scratches where the plane is facing towards the sunlight, I will use a warm highlight, and it's going to look a lot brighter too. So I could use maybe this one for this part, like here, for example. Could use like a big, maybe like a chunky highlight, like that's got like a bit of a dent in it like that. This scratch mark might have a plane that faces us this way. See how this is kind of very subtle, but it's very effective. And the best part is it actually doesn't take that much time. That's the best part. Sometimes we look at all this detail on paintings and we think, oh man, it must have taken ages to do that. And it's like, no. No, it's just how you use your brush. It just depends on how you mix your colors and your values. Details don't have to take a long time. Especially if you paint more in like a painterly fashion. See how that's making it look more believable. It's quite a clever little effect. Can even like break up some of these scratch marks as well. Yeah. It's looking a lot more 3D now. And yeah, I do this basically with everything. This is kind of the logic. So like I do this for like the trim as well, where I break up the highlights to kind of give the illusion of texture. And I do the same on these steel parts here. You can see the scratches and the dents in there. Exact same technique that I've just done there. So yeah, hopefully this demo was, hopefully you got some use out of it. It's really all about value and color temperature. If the value changes, then that means the plane is changing. And if the temperature changes, that can also signify a plane change too. So it's not just value, it's also how you're mixing your temperatures as well. So I'm just going to keep brushing away on this piece, and hopefully I'll get this shield done today. Hopefully that one in the background, maybe this one too, and a few others, because that'd be nice. Yeah, thank you for watching, and best of luck to your creations. I'll just quickly check, see if we got any comments. Nope, no comments, all good. So, best of luck to you guys. Thanks for watching, take care.